yesterday some of you had raised some queries about submission of your project proposals. So if any one of you have sent it to the counselor, Dr. Kohli, so I request that you may send it again to him. I have spoken to him. So you send it again to him and then he'll be looking at it and giving you the comments. Okay? How many of you have taken project, opted for project work? Today, I think Adamu is not there. I think he was raising a query yesterday. Abdullahi Sulaiman, you have taken? Adamu has come. Yeah, Haruna.
Hello.
Yeah. Yeah.
With you, is Tombe?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm actually also part of project, and I've been on and off in where I am working. We used to have a busy schedule,
Okay.
but I also wanted to learn more from your side.
Okay.
How many are we?
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon,
Yeah,
Adamu.
good afternoon, Adamu. I actually wanted to learn from you how many are we taking project, and how so far have we gone, and how many among the students have so far submitted their proposal, so that I will also speed up from my side to do mine. So
I think you can still submit. That's what I'm asking you. I don't have any data. Adamu yesterday was saying that he had submitted it to Dr. Kohli, I think. You have sent it, Adamu, to Dr. Kohli? You have emailed him?
Yes, ma, I have emailed him for almost 2 weeks now.
Yeah, I spoke to him and he was a little busy. He said that you may again resend him, okay, the same proposal after this, okay? I don't know who else. I think 2-3 of you have just put on the chat box that you have opted for proposals. Sorry, project work. Let me see who is that. I think Musa and Haruna. Have you both submitted the proposals? Sent the proposals? Evaristo also. Have you sent? Have you emailed to the counselor?
No, I haven't, ma. I'm still working on it, but I'll soon finish and send it.
Yeah, you can do it. Okay, this week, coming week.
Okay. Yes. Okay, thank you.
Musa is also working on it. Evaristo? I think only Adamu must have emailed the proposal. Has anybody sent to Dr. Kohli? Anybody else who have opted for project? I think rest must have opted for MED 004. So
yes, can you share the details for the doctor's email? Me, I've not yet.
I did opt for project also. I'm yet to complete the proposal, but possibly on Monday I'll do my submission.
Yeah, I'll send you I'll put on the chat box, okay, his email ID. Okay.
Okay,
you can,
thanks. Yeah, okay, thanks.
You can send it to him. Wait, I'll put it on the chat box.
Yes, I have another. I have a question, and I really wanted to have more clarification from your end. You know, we initially we were having a counseling, and we have breaked for quite some time, and we are also back. I wanted to know from your end, when are we going to have exams, and when are we finalizing the current ongoing counseling, so that this one can give us as student a better projections, especially most of us are having a busy days. Most of the students are working.
Yes.
And you can even see from our attendance, some students are on and off. It could be because of the work that they are doing. And when the schedule are not very clear, it will be very hard for us to prepare ourselves, especially for exams. It will not be easy, and the student will be confused. And as I'm talking, I'm little a bit, honestly, I'm a bit confused because I cannot, settle myself very well. And I really also wanted you to work very hard with us and come up with a very clear way for us, so that things will be very good for all of us as students. Thanks.
Yeah, I really appreciate your concern. First of all, as I wasn't your academic counselor. I have been the program coordinator of this program, and only recently, since I superannuated from IGNU on April 30th, Dr. Smriti asked me that, since the other papers counseling were almost over, so, whether I can take up this course, and I have taken it up. Okay. So actually we are not involved in the administrative things right now. Even if I am the faculty, I was the former faculty of IGNU. Now your coordinator, who is coordinating it, will, I think, get in touch with you. And you have, I think, the last counseling as per the schedule that I got, MED 004, I think it is next week. You all must have got the schedule. So next Saturday, Sunday, 2 days, that is going to be the counseling for MED 004. I think with that, the counseling will come to an end. Okay. And some of you are submitting the project proposals regarding the examination, conduct of examination. Yeah, I understand that it is a concern, and it will be conveyed to Dr. Smriti to get in touch with headquarters and let you know, so that you have a clear picture of the exam and you can start preparing. Okay. This will be conveyed to her, that you may be told, so that you can plan your schedule. Yeah. Yeah,
as he have said, he have been on and off. That is why he raised this issue. But I'm sure for those who are around, I think she addressed this issue in before our yesterday's counseling.
Yeah,
She
that's
have
what
said it. They are working about the timetable, and also with regards to the schedule. The one that you're talking about is the last schedule we are going to have. For us that are doing the project work, I think from these classes of yours, we are done with the counseling. For those who opted for participatory, they are the one that are going to join the class next week. So I think these issues were addressed yesterday. It's just that maybe you are not around.
These issues will be addressed. And as he said rightly, for those who have opted MED 004, you have 2 more classes next week. For others, now this is the last, so you can start preparing. And meanwhile, I'm sure she will get back with the details about the pattern of the term and exam, so that it will facilitate your preparation. Okay. So now we come to Unit 17, which talks about, now the last block talks about the long-term recovery, because rehabilitation, reconstruction, in a way involves the implementation of long-term recovery measures, because the recovery is not just immediate. That recovery which takes place, where the aid is given and then the food supplies are there. But the goal is to move towards long-term recovery. So in this long-term recovery, it is a multi-dimensional field because it just doesn't involve only the government, but involves coordinated inputs and actions from a number of agencies from different sectors. Because as we have been discussing all these in all these classes, anything, the recovery also is not just one economic recovery. It is physical recovery, social as well as economic. I hope you all agree that recovery cannot be only economic. It has to be physical, it has to be social and economic. How can it be three? Like, can anybody clarify? When we say that disaster recovery has to be economic, social and physical, how can it take place? Disaster recovery? Yeah. Yeah, Adam.
Yeah, yes. For the economically, the recovery should be in such a way that the government and NGOs should create an enabling environment for businesses to strive again, like giving soft loan or free interest loan, a kind of constructing temporary market before constructing the main one, or a kind of rehabilitating those that can portion of the market that can be rehabilitated, and also giving some what do they call them? Is it seed something for the business, the one that they use for drugs removing form. So, and when it has to do with a recovery physically, it has to do with either a kind of rehabilitating those structures that can be rehabilitated, and
Okay.
also plan for building those ones that can be resistant from the disaster that was experienced.
So that's why we say that disaster recovery is a multi-dimensional thing. So it encompasses both physical, economic, and social. So all these days we have been discussing what are all the social aspects, economic, and then physical aspects also. So even the psychological aspects or the psychological recovery comes under the aspect of social recovery. So when we talk of role of various agencies, first we talk about role apart from government, NGOs, community-based organizations, self-help groups, the rural and urban local bodies. Like in India, we have rural local bodies and urban local bodies. They take care of the management and the governance of the urban areas, like we have towns, cities. The responsibility of management of these is the of urban local bodies, whereas the rural local bodies, they take care of the lowest tier, that is at the grassroots level, villages, districts, blocks, all these. What about your countries? You also have this type, urban and rural local bodies. Do you have two different types? Do you have urban local bodies and rural local bodies? For managing the affairs of urban areas and rural areas, to have different set of institutions? Yeah, Tombe.
Yes, just to answer your question, yes, in South Sudan, based on the disaster-related context and response, yes, at the we have a system of government whereby we have the national government, we have the state government, we have the counties, and then we have the bombers and the bombers and the villages. And in all these governmental systems,
Yeah.
like when it comes to non-governmental related interventions, of course,
Okay.
when disaster happens, normally when it happens at the city level, most of the responses happen at the level of the states. But when organizations are responding at the rural or a community level, where the disaster strike happened at the village or Boma level, normally, the DRM committees are formed, and at that level, the communities are empowered based on the intervention. If it is an emergency response to disaster, the other sectors where you talked of the social, economic, and the recovery process takes place. At the social context, yes, the social, normally the response will target especially those that have issues to do with, like what we have discussed, issues, activities can be mapped up based on how these people can be built in order to overcome issues related to like stress management, issues to do with social related cohesion, issues to deal, yeah, to deal with, like if it is a economic aspect where the intervention targets this community to be empowered based on what has already occurred in that particular area, as my brother said, the response will target that particular aspect. Like the example that I can give is like here we normally do what we call CAS programming. A CAS programming, it is one of the key aspects in disaster response where the community that have really are affected by a disaster will be given like a conditional cash transfer or unconditional cash transfer. When these ones are given, they will be able to build. They normally, in a period of time, they are able to build up their economic, let me say, their livelihoods. And that is exactly how the recovery process starts. As the intervention occurs at a period of time, the community can be able to recover. That based on that, I can answer you like that. Thanks.
Okay, very good. So, any other experiences or any other observations others have too? Because why do we feel that these urban and local bodies are play an important role? Because they are at the grassroots level of governance. Because where the people, whenever an incident happens, it is the local administration which has to rush to the people to give them and help them in the relief and rescue process. So the immediate action is possible only if the local community comes to. So the local community alone cannot do it. It needs the help of the local administration. So that's why the rural and the urban local bodies, they play an important role. Because for example, first aid, immediately what is needed whenever a disaster takes place is the first aid. So giving of first aid, like one cannot wait for the medical personnel to come from the nearby places or the nearby hospitals. It is the local community which can give the immediate first aid. For example, in flood, like they can help in evacuating the people through boats and rafts and all. So all these things can be made from this thing. So what this requires, that each community make its own disaster preparedness team. That's why we talk of disaster task force, disaster preparedness team, because it can immediately respond when a disaster strikes in the area, so that the loss of lives, injury, damage to people and livestock can be minimized. See, whenever this disaster task force or committees are formed, it should have people from different walks of life. That it can be from the government, it can be from the NGOs, self-help groups, from private sector, from business and trade communities, social workers, all these. So, it can be a sort of a multidisciplinary, multitask team, and well coordinated, they can give good results. Similarly, the NGOs also, non-governmental organizations, can play an important role in the recovery process. We have seen in India that whenever disasters of magnitude happen, like various charitable organizations, they come together, they organize, community kitchens, and also make use of ham radio in locating people and spreading the information and all these things. So NGOs also play an important role. So what is required when we say that, the NGOs, self-help groups, community-based organizations, all these have to play an important role? See, we need to have all things should be standardized. Like, the NGO concerned should know what is to be given in case of relief. Like, what are the minimum standards of relief in case of food, in case of water supply. Like, I'm sure you must have read it you must have discussed in disaster recovery, disaster response. What are all the standardized relief standards? I think you have read, no? What are the relief standards? The relief manuals are made, which indicates, like, what are the standards of relief in case of water supply, in case of food, in case of medicine, in case of first aid. What are all the standards? When these things are laid down, it becomes easy for any organization, whether it is NGO, community based, or government, to give the necessary recovery items and then help in the recovery process. Like, for example, there can be cases where, here in India, we have the school teachers and the school personnel in the area playing a very important role in distribution of relief items and help in the recovery. I'm sure in your countries also you have all these organizations which play an important role. Do you have? Because when so many organizations are working together, we need to have certain standards and then some sort of a charter that is laid down. Yeah, somebody was saying.
Yes. Yeah, I just a quick one. I wanted to add a voice on that. Yeah. I think globally when it comes to NGOs interventions, NGOs, yes, they operate with the standards. And these days, in general, when proposals are being developed, you can't project even targets. Like, for example, you are developing a concept or a proposal for let me say, a resilient project of one and a half year. And based on that, you have a multi-sectoral approach intervention where WASH is incorporated, FSL intervention is incorporated, health, gender and protections are all incorporated. And all these projections of the interventions have to go per the standards. If the standards are not there, no one will even give money.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what you are actually discussing. Organization operates with the standards.
Yeah. So because some international organizations like Sphere and all, APSFAM, they all have also laid down, but it is good for each country to develop its own relief standards, so that, it helps in the distribution of material and also plan for long-term recovery. Like, any houses are to be built as a process of rehabilitation. What are the standards that need to be followed? What are the specifications? So all these things need to be there. And the other thing is, challenge that we face in disaster recovery rehabilitation is, how do you network? Because, there are so many NGOs working, so there should not be duplication of efforts by the NGOs. So it is better that there is a sort of a networking, so that all the NGOs are brought together on a single platform, and then their efforts can be streamlined. So networking of them, bringing them together under one umbrella, it helps in faster movement of relief to remote, inaccessible, and difficult areas. And also, they all can sit together and then plan for proper restoration, reconstruction, and rehabilitation of social and economic infrastructure to the people, and also help the community in developing the disaster mitigation and preparedness plans. So what is required when so many agencies are working together is there is need for cooperation between the government and the NGOs, and also all the NGOs should be networked so that there is no duplication of efforts. Like for example, in India, one such effort was made. Like it was an umbrella organization called Vasudeva was formed, which stands for Voluntary Agencies for Sustainable Universal Development and Emergency Voluntary Action. It was created to network and have interlinkages between the various NGOs and also the NGOs and the government. Why government is ultimately the long-term rehabilitation and recovery is the responsibility of the government, but the government as a single institution will not be able to do. So it requires the help of the NGOs. Like for example, training of masons in local areas, like those who build the houses, which help in building of the houses. So training of these masons in construction techniques and all, this can be taken up by the NGOs. And also the various livelihood options, like basket weaving, and then making of toys, dolls, all these things, they come under economic infrastructure, where one has to go in for building of various livelihood options. In all this, the NGOs can play a role. So all that requires that there should be a networking between all these organizations: the government, NGOs, community-based organizations, and the community as such. So what do you think about it? There is need for networking? Or you allow
Yes.
them?
Yeah, I wanted to add something there. Yes.
Yeah.
In NGOs related programming, I think globally, and based on how they normally do interventions. Yes, in fact, in NGO related aspect of coordination, I do see it is really very strong. Wherever they operate, wherever they work, like for instance, at a county level and at the state and national level, they normally have aspect where there is a coordination meetings, and these coordination meetings are normally it is normally done at a uh, monthly
Right.
where they all come together. Like for example, in a particular county, they can have one organization that will be chairing the coordination meetings, where monthly they normally share what the project they have, the challenges they have, their achievements, and the areas where there are gaps, there are areas where there are problems, areas where there is a need gap, and that one in particular, it handles aspect of duplication where like one a a organization does let me say livelihood related interventions, and the other one does health. It will not be all that good for the same organization to do a related health intervention in one geographical location. That one will be a waste of resources. And as you said, coordinations are normally done to
Achha.
avoid aspect of duplication. Thanks. Yeah.
Any other comments? So the networking of this is quite important. The other thing is, like self-help groups also. I don't know if you have, in India the self-help groups are very very common, and they play an important role. Like we had case studies where in cases of drought, these self-help groups came together and helped in the rationing of, in one of the states in India, we have a case study where, efforts were made by self-help groups to divide and then distribute the water supply to the various different fields, and then so that everybody gets access to the water. It is so that water is distributed equally. I'm just giving an instance. So all these things, they are called as, we call it as pani panchayats. Pani is water. So how whenever there is scarcity of water, there was an instance where generally people do not want to share. There is always a tendency that this is mine, that I will only use it. But then the self-help groups can play an important role in this, and then see that whatever resources are available are equitably distributed amongst the people. Since the self-help groups are formed from within the community, there is more acceptance and the people listen to the self-help groups. So when we say that there are various agencies have an important role in this, so what happens is all these agencies, they come together, and then there is need for networking where they all come together and then work towards this. So then only the long-term recovery takes place in a sustained way. Now the second unit is on monitoring and evaluation of rehabilitation work. See, whenever we talk of rehabilitation, it involves long-term activities. Like, various activities are taken up, then only the rehabilitation is able to take place. But now we are talking about the long-term recovery and rehabilitation. So any rehabilitation activities taken up, whether building of the houses, dams, anything, we need to have proper monitoring and evaluation. Why proper monitoring evaluation is, lot of money and resources are involved in taking up of these activities. So it should be seen that whatever money is invested in various activities, they are going smoothly, they are going properly and giving the best results. So monitoring is a very important aspect, and this monitoring also becomes effective when there is participation of various groups like NGOs, CBOs and community in this. Why monitoring is important is to see that the people for whom rehabilitation activities are taking place, they are satisfied with the project outcome. Like any houses, for example, houses are being built. Suppose an earthquake prone area, after the earthquake has struck, the houses are being built. So it is to be seen that the houses are built as per the expectations of the people. They were consulted before the houses were built, and otherwise there is no point. The houses are built and then they refuse to go and occupy the houses, then what is the point? So they should be happy. So generally the evaluation is done by external agency, but as far as possible, if monitoring and evaluation activities are taken up in a very participative way, it becomes very effective. So there is need for a comprehensive framework. Like everything there should be a flow chart. Like when was the activity started? How is it going? So that, one gets to know the activities are taking place in a proper way. So monitoring basically has four functions. Why is there need for monitoring? First is to provide information. Then second, the management is able to improve the performance. The information comes, then the management or the organization is able to see whether the activities are going as per the schedule, as per the flow chart. So this helps in improving the performance. Suppose there are any delays that are taking place, it helps in seeing where are the delays, why are the delays, is it due to lack of people, or money is not coming, what is there. Then monitoring also helps in learning from experience. In any activity, suppose a monitoring activity, it shows some problems, next activity whenever is taken, one can put in the experience and see those drawbacks are removed. So what are the tasks in monitoring. First is you have to prepare a plan. See, what are the, suppose some housing activity or some small bridge or a well is being constructed. First, you have to prepare and plan for the monitoring system. You have to indicate what is the total cost of the project, what are the human and material resources, what is the time limit. Then you have to list the various indicators. Then you have to see, you have to collect the data. Once the activity is taking place, you have to collect the data. See that under which stage the activity is. Like the financial resources, if they are able to, whatever allocated, if they are able to implement it properly within the budget, then you have to analyze the information and then you have to draw lessons from it. So you have to have various indicators. Like for example, in a post-earthquake rehabilitation project, like monitoring involves listing of indicators, like financial. Financial includes the amount of money that is spent, okay, and the socio-economic progress. Like for example, what are the activities that is being taken up in the area of construction or health, all these things, and physical also. How many houses are being built? How many houses are built for humans? What is the thing built for livestock? What are the arrangements being made for livestock? All these things, the indicators have to be developed. So these are the indicators, because monitoring provides in a way information whether the particular project is giving results or not, and with that you are able to cross check whether the quality is okay, whether there is need for improvement, and all these things. So generally, whenever we lay down the indicators, we have to be very specific. Any rehabilitation program, for example, building of houses in an area where earthquake has taken place, let the indicators be very, very specific. Like for example, what are the types of houses being built for people, for livestock? Then if they are measurable, like I have indicated in my plan that 20 houses are being built. So at the end of it, in the between, I should be able to say the work that is going on with regard to the construction of these 20 houses, and whether I am able to get the information, and also whether it is time bound. Whatever plan I have given, it is going as per the plan. So the monitoring of the activities, especially in post-disaster recovery, is very, very important. So monitoring helps in having a hold over the activities, and then see that everything is going as per the thing. Next, we come to evaluation. First is monitoring and next is evaluate. Evaluate means examine, assessing whether the activity that is going on is being done effectively. You have to assess. You have to assess how effective it is, what is the progress, whether it is being efficiently done, and what is the relevance. Like, are people happy with it? Then sustainable. Is it the activity is going to sustain in the long run? Then connectedness. Like, whether all the activities are connected together. It's not that one activity is going in one direction, other is going in the other. And the impact of the activity or the project. The impact of it on the population or on the people. So the evaluation criteria is very, very important. All these things: effectiveness, the progress, efficiency, relevance, sustainability, connectedness, and impact. So whenever we are going in for evaluation of the activities, the exercise involves what we call is writing terms of reference. Like one has to, like you're going to evaluate any activity, rehabilitation activity, you have to have clearly in writing your terms of reference. Any activity you're going to evaluate, first you should know what are the objectives of the proposed activity which is being taken up. Like for example, building of a small dam or building of a check dam, what are the objectives of it? Then methods, like through what methods you are going to evaluate. You are going to undertake field visit to that place. You are going to see how the activity is taking place. Then the timetable, schedule, like, the work should proceed as per the schedule. Like you have given 5 months time, 6 months time, 1 year, it is going as per the schedule. Then budget, what are the various details of the expenditure, and what is the information, like are they giving regular reports about the progress of the activities. So all these things are very, very important. So especially in rehabilitation process, the evaluation activity is very, very important, because it helps in bringing out the relevance of the activity that is being taken up. Rehabilitation process is a very, very long term, which involves a lot of money and resources. So the extent to which this initiative, when it is being taken up on such a large scale, whether it has achieved the objectives or it is going to achieve the objectives, one need to examine. So one needs to understand the relevance of the activity that is being taken place, the efficiency of the activity, the sustainability, whether to what extent this activity is going to sustain. Any activity, especially when we talk of long-term recovery, we need to see that it is going to sustain in a long run. Suppose the earthquake resistant houses are being constructed, like, they have to be sustained. Like, it's not that you build now and then there is going to be some problem with it. Like, it has to be sustained. When so much of money is being invested on it, it has to be sustained. So all these things now can be done only through appropriate monitoring and evaluation. So everything should be documented. Whenever we talk of rehabilitation activities, whenever the community or any organization is involved, whenever one undertakes some monitoring and the evaluation activities, it has to be seen that it is documented. Then only you can be able to say whether whatever the money that is being invested in a particular activity, if it is justifying the investments or the money that is spent on it. So this is in crux the monitoring and evaluation of rehabilitation work. So firstly, the monitoring is very, very important, because it helps the organization to know, to keep control over the activities that are being taken towards long-term recovery. And evaluation helps in seeing whether evaluation tools, the tools and techniques that are adopted, will help in seeing that the activity or the project is going as per the time schedule, the amount that is being spent is as per the schedule and as per the budget that is laid down, and all these things have to be documented, and all these have to be put what we call as terms of reference. Then only any monitoring and evaluation team, whosoever external or internal, will be able to assess whether any activity is going as per the plan. So any observations, anything you want to share? Anything? Yeah, Tombe.
Yes, just a quick one. I just want to add some few things when it comes to monitoring and evaluation. Yes, most of the things you have already discussed them. Just basically, what I wanted to add is that on the issues of compliance, like in NGO-related operations, they normally monitoring and evaluations personnel normally follow what we call core humanitarian standards, DCHS. They follow it very strictly when it any related interventions. Like for example, I can just give an example. Like for example, in a particular disaster-prone interventions where, like in a project, the government or NGOs wanted to
Yeah.
locations, and they are like for example, 5 boats. And now the personnel in this
yeah.
They want the, as you say, the objective. How do they want the borehole to be drilled? How should it be assessed? Is it meant for a particular area, A or B? And if it is driven outside, what are those things that need to be incorporated? Like, for example, for compliance issues.
Yes. For compliance?
Drill to a particular area. And the officers, those that are implementing, they end up drilling it in another locations. The MNE will say, why did you drive this to this location?
Yeah. Yeah. I think there is some internet connectivity problem.
Hello?
Yeah. Yes, we are able to hear.
If the project talked of 5 boreholes to be drilled, and the interventions or those that are implementing did not.
Those data, I couldn't get it. Yes? I think there is some network issue. I think there is a network issue, I think.
Issue.
Yeah. Tell.
Yeah. I think just I have internet issue. I think that is just briefly that what I can add on regards to that. It normally monitoring and evaluation always bring intervention on track. That is just what I wanted to add. Thanks.
Normally brings intervention. You said something. Intervention.
Yes, I said monitoring.
Monitoring and evaluation brings in. You can write in the chat box. Anybody else wants to say, they want to say something, add on to it? Anyone? See, generally the attitude is when we say talk of monitoring and evaluation, there are certain challenges or constraints in it. Because generally everything is in the mindset of the project staff. Like, a project, an activity is taken up in a project mode. So the project staff naturally is also involved in monitoring and evaluation. But generally, it happens at times that a statement that can be made is like it can't be evaluated. Evaluation takes a lot of time. So these are generally the challenges that we come across. So, and also another thing is during the process of evaluation and monitoring, any changes that come about, any changes that need to be, generally, we don't accept it. Like, we feel that why should we change it? It's going on well. Isn't it? See, generally, evaluation is something like, many do not, like I should say that it has challenges because it has to do a lot with the times, with the mindset. Don't you think? It is not an easy activity. Don't you think? Is evaluation and monitoring an easy activity?
Not at all. It is not an easy activity. It is a tough one. Yeah.
Because generally, the project staff which is involved in it, like it happens that maybe, the activity got delayed, it is not giving. So, that is a reflection on the project. So that means they have to redo it, or they have to, put it in a different way. So generally, the mindset acts as a biggest challenge in monitoring and evaluation work. So what are the constraints is, at times it also happens that the entire process is very, very, it's a long drawn process, and the indicators are also very vague. See, for everything you can't have indicators. So there is no clarity at times to the project staff as to what is to be monitored and evaluated. So for everything, indicators cannot be there. We cannot lay down the indicators. So this is one of the constraints, because monitoring and evaluation generally is done based on certain indicators. Yes, Sani? Yes, Sani, you had something?
Hello, good afternoon, colleagues. Yes, the thing that I just want to add about the monitoring evaluation, for example, like in a project, it may be started during the project and it may not finish until the project finish. And at times it may be, yes, at times they may even request for another extension for the project, and the monitoring evaluation continue with the another extension. So monitoring evaluation is not a small deal, but it's a big deal, because without monitoring and evaluation, project cannot move forward and achieve the goals. That's what I wanted to add. Yes,
that's true. Good. So monitoring and evaluation, as you said, it's not a easy task. But because there are also at times it is said that my project is different. Something on building of houses could be different. Something else on some other thing could be different. So that is another thing. The nature of the project also varies. So the standards or the indicators against which we have to do the monitoring and evaluation also varies from one to the other. So that is another problem. The indicators having quantifiable. So you have to evaluate the quality as well as the in qualitative terms as well as the quantitative terms. So this becomes a challenge. And the other thing is, at times it happens that there are so many indicators or benchmarks. So they are so many that the entire monitoring and evaluation process takes a long time. And the other thing is, for monitoring and evaluation, what is needed or what is very important is the information and data. So at times the information does not percolate either top down or bottom up. The information doesn't reach. So this is another challenge. And also involvement of all stakeholders is necessary. So at times not all stakeholders or all staff members are involved. So they do not understand the link between the information collection, dissemination, and then evaluating it as per that. So all these things also create problems. And quantitative aspects also. Many a times certain quantitative things cannot be, everything can't be quantified. So this is another challenge. And at times we don't have proper adequate human resources also to undertake the monitoring, because the monitoring and evaluation activity is a very, very specialized task. So whenever it is done by an external or an internal team, like, it involves a lot of human resource, and at times we do not have the human resource. So generally when we talk of what is the in monitoring and evaluation, there are two types of data that is taken. First is, as I said, the qualitative data. So qualitative data, like, it, for example, in any rehabilitation program that is being taken up, so what the quality of the activities that are being taken up, quality of the projects, all this, one has to go to the scene, observe it, and see how the work is progressing. Like, you cannot generally have fixed indicators. You can have indicators, but at times it becomes difficult to assess the quality. The other thing is quantitative data. Like, you want to ask the people whether they are happy with it, like how many houses are being built, whether they are happy with the rehabilitation activities pertaining to livestock. All these things you can sit with people. Like, these can be done through interviews with the people, and then you can have group interviews, you can have community meetings at the grassroots level, and then get the data. And other is also participants observation. You can also observe and see how the activities are being taken up and take the data. So the entire thing of monitoring and evaluation, though, is very, very important. It is very important and relevant to the rehabilitation process. It has its own challenges. So that's why one needs to be trained in having this monitoring and the evaluation. But no doubt, monitoring and evaluation is a key important aspect in the rehabilitation process, because rehabilitation involves lot of material, human as well as the financial resources. So one has to monitor and evaluate whether the work is going as per the schedule and as per the resources that are allocated. Okay, is there any observation?
No, ma, it's well understood.
Okay, then we take a break of about 5 minutes. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, ma. Yeah, it's okay.
So now we come to the other unit which talks of long-term recovery. So in long-term recovery, what are the aspects that we need to take into account? See, the approach to long-term recovery has to be community-based, because it is the communities who are most vulnerable. They have limited education and awareness, and also they do not have much knowledge about the disaster resistant practices. So the process of rehabilitation, it has to be based on the needs of the community. Don't you think so? The process of rehabilitation, has to be linked to the recovery and the development goals. Don't you think? The process of rehabilitation has to be linked.
Yeah. If at all it wants it to be sustained, it has to be linked together, because without one, the other cannot stand. So they must go hand in hand together to get the end result.
So any rehabilitation exercise first should have a proper plan. And the plan has to lay down what are the principles and aims of the rehabilitation. What is the type of rehabilitation? What are the basic principles and aims? And the rehabilitation exercise, secondly, has to be carried out with the community. It has to be a two-flow thing, two-way thing. It is not, should not be a 1-8 thing. And also, thirdly, it has to be ensured that it's sustainable. It is sustainable, so that the agency that is providing the aid ensures that there is good flow, continued flow of the aid that is given to it. So the principles of rehabilitation has to clearly laid down, and it has to be participatory. And rehabilitation, we should know, is not just a short-term exercise. So because the community at times, what happens is it faces recurrent disasters. It is not that they have faced one disaster, it is over, but the same disaster can also happen later. So it has to be, the rehabilitation exercise has to be planned, has to be made in such a way that the recurrent disasters are taken care of. So the aim of the rehabilitation should be to reduce its vulnerability. So what is needed for this? We have to build the assets of the community. Their livelihood has to be secure. The disaster resistant construction has to be undertaken, be it earthquake, flood, cyclone, and the other infrastructure also that is built has to improve the quality of the life of the people and the community, so that it is better than what it was before. So the first is rehabilitation is not, what are the principles of rehabilitation, planning for rehabilitation? First is, it is not a short-term gap filling exercise that, okay, some disaster has happened, it is going to be done like this. No, that is not the thing. It has to be participative, and then it has to increase the capacity of the community. Secondly, it should be empowering. The rehabilitation exercise should be empowering. The community has to be empowered, like socially, economically, physically. So whatever activities are being taken up, it has to be very, very comprehensive, taking care of all these things, social, economic, and psychological aspects. Then also the rehabilitation should keep the local conditions in view, the local cultural aspects, and accordingly the activities have to be taken up. Because any exercise, as I was saying before, the rehabilitation exercise that is done should establish a strong bond with the community. Like some houses, for example, some houses are built but they are not as per the expectations of the community. They want that the houses should be built in a peculiar way, in a particular way. Then what is the point of building? Putting so much of money there is no point, because the people's needs and their cultural aspects are not taken into account. So the people really have to own it. So it has to be that. Then also a livelihood package, the rehabilitation should focus on, and it should keep into account it should take into account various things, not just employment, their welfare, health care, medical care, educational facilities, labor security, all these things have to be done. So there has to be, when we talk of rehabilitation in such a manner, like rehabilitation is meant for empowering people, like it is a long term thing, and it should keep the local cultural aspects in view. So there has to be planning that is done. So the planning has to be, first a very broad strategic plan has to be developed, then a local community plan has to be developed, and then an action plan has to be developed. The strategic plan is at a overall level, broad level, where everything is laid down, how the rehabilitation activity is going to take place. That is a strategic planning. It has to come down to the local level. So the local community plan has to be developed, and then the action plan also has to be developed. So this is as far as rehabilitation plan is concerned. Then the project team that is involved in the reconstruction, rehabilitation process, they should be very motivated, and their building of skills is needed, and also they should have the attitude of helping the community. They should be a part of the community. So they should involve the community. It should be more and more inclusive and participatory. Like as I said earlier, we have to keep the local needs in the rehabilitation and reconstruction activity. Don't you think local needs have to be kept in mind? The community's lifestyle, habits, customs, all these should be a part of it. Don't you think so? Don't you think?
We think so, because if you want it to be sustained, it has to be based on their culture, and it has to be based on their need.
So the local needs, because after all, when it is being made for the community, they have to own it. They should be acceptable to them. So all these things have to keep the rehabilitation exercise, have to recognize the local needs, their lifestyles, habits, and customs. So then only any rehabilitation exercise will be successful and will be sustainable. So as I said earlier, there are three types of plans generally that should be made. One is strategic plan. Yeah. Evaristo.
Thank you so much. I wanted to relate an experience but it relates much to livelihood reconstruction in Zambia.
Yeah.
Yeah. On issues of, say, drought risk, the government of the Republic of Zambia, through other agencies, worked to reduce the risk and to reconstruct livelihoods in different parts of the country. And among one initiative was what the government implemented with the World Food Program and other agencies like Oxfam with USAID funding.
Yeah.
So it was implemented with the local people. So the WFP called it ARA4. Now, the ARA4 was a very good initiative because it helped rural smallholder farmers with techniques for disaster risk and climate risk reduction.
Yeah.
How to create a risk reserve, prudent risk taking, and risk transfer initiatives. So under risk reduction, they were able to learn numerous methods and modern methods of farming While under risk transfer, they were able to introduce insurance through the reserve. I mean, they introduced insurance for farmers for drought. And then under risk reserve, they created what was called the village banking initiative, and they were able to save some monies for the rainy day.
Okay.
And then the risk that was not transferred, they were told how to prudently utilize their initiatives to help them cope with this kind of risk. So it was in 4 parts. That's why it was called RR4. So there was risk reduction, risk transfer, risk reserve, and risk taking, prudent risk taking. So there are some initiatives where they need to take risks. And when you look at those now, those communities that implemented this kind of initiative, have reconstructed their livelihoods and are doing much better than those communities that didn't do this kind of reconstruction. Previously, these communities were prone to climate risks like flooding in some areas, while other places had quite a lot of drought. But they have been able to bring in initiatives that have made the local farmers, the small scale farmers in those areas, to withstand the drought, and they have made away with the flood risk, and are able to produce quite as much that they have surplus now, even for sale. So that's a kind of reconstruction initiative that was taken in a district called Kawambwa, and in some dry districts of Gwembe.
Very good.
Thank you.
Very good. I think such things are very heartening to know that, whatever we read in theory, like these are also taking place, maybe not on a large scale, but some beginning has been made. So it's very, it's very easy to discuss about it on a theoretical level, but in the practical level, it is being done. It is really very heartening to know. So anything else you want to share? Anybody? When we talk of long-term recovery. So as I said, that long-term recovery can take place only when we take the local community needs into account. So how can we take the local needs into account? By formulating a local community plan. So you have discussed about the community-based disaster plan earlier also. So for a post-disaster reconstruction, recovery and rehabilitation also, we need to develop a local community plan where the government firstly is involved, because rehabilitation is a very, very critical and a very important activity. So in this, the government has to give guidelines for rehabilitation. So there should be proper guidelines, so that the government guidelines help the community in taking it forward. So, when there are certain guidelines, standards, checklists, indicators laid down, then it becomes easy for forging a connection between the government and the community. Secondly, a rehabilitation exercise, recovery exercise, has to win the trust of the community, which is very, very important. It has to be executed, for example, in a shortest possible time. For this, you need to take the community support, which is very, very important. So the project team, for example, a community asset has to be made. So as per the needs, if they are built, suppose a house is given as a gift to the community, it builds trust with the community. The community asset is to be built. Then, bringing, for example, building a small well, or building a check dam, or whatever it is. Suppose it is built, through this you win the trust. The government wins the trust of the community. And thirdly, another important thing is we have to build the capacities. When we talk of rehabilitation, reconstruction, and this thing, it is not that the capacities of the people have to be involved. Like, once an asset is built, they have to maintain it also. Every time you can't expect the government or the NGO or the community-based organization to come into picture and help them in maintaining the asset. So you need to build the capacity, train them as to how to maintain it. For example, a school building is built. Okay, it is built and given away. After the disaster, suppose the building got collapsed or there was something, it is built and given away to the community. But now it is up to the community to maintain it. So this is very, very important. You have to train them in leadership. So training, capacity building of the community is a very, very important activity, which is very necessary when you have to have proper rehabilitation exercise. So whatever it is, the rehabilitation exercise is done, the action plan, it is a joint effort. There has to be joint action, planning, and implementation. Implementation also should be done in a very joint and a very coordinated manner. So we need to understand that rehabilitation activities should lay down principles, and the rehabilitation needs and goals have to be linked to the development. It has to be participatory. It has to follow minimum established standards. Any rehabilitation exercise, it should reduce the vulnerability. It has to promote the empowerment of the people. It should be flexible. It should bring about improvement in quality of life. It should establish team building. The team spirit should be there, and it should also set up a proper monitoring and evaluation framework. So this is the entire thing about the rehabilitation. When we talk about the long-term recovery, the rehabilitation activity should be adhere to these principles. Rehabilitation is not a sole activity of the government. Like, it is not the sole activity, it is a very, very participatory activity, and it has to be linked to the development needs and goals of the community. It has to be participatory, and the minimum standards that are laid down have to be followed. It should reduce vulnerability also, and it should try to improve the quality of life. Any observations? Anything? Anybody wants to say anything?
Yeah, I think it is clear we can go forward. Huh?
Okay. So the last unit is long-term counter-disaster planning. Okay. The long-term planning for disaster, it should be based on cooperation and capacity building, sustainability, and upscaling. Upscaling is improving the activities and integration of all the policy issues. All the policy issues, health issues, medical issues, everything has to be linked to the disaster management. Like, everything, there should be a holistic approach. So what we can say is, globally now we are moving towards a very proactive approach, where we are moving towards community-based disaster preparedness orientation. Now we have come to the end of this, so we need to know that crisis management is not the only way out. See, along with management of the crisis, what is important is we have to build the preparedness of the community through a developmental approach. Development should be such that which should prevent disasters. That is the main focus. Development is needed, but it should be such that it prevents disasters, and it should not itself become disaster, the development activity. So disaster management has to be mainstreamed with the development process. Don't you think that disaster management should be streamlined with the development process? should be streamlined.
Yeah, it should be streamlined with the development process, so that they can so that the country will be at the proactive side rather than reactive side. Because one, it is in line, then every plan should be, it will be in such a way that the building that are going to be done, the construction development will be in the form of disaster resistance form. So as such, you are preventing the disaster from happening, and that will prevent you from reacting, because it will not happen. You cannot react, so you prevent it from the beginning, in line with your developmental project.
Yeah. So everything, like, the entire thing should be based on cooperation and capacity building of the community. Cooperation and capacity building of the community is very, very important, right from preparedness, mitigation, prevention, reconstruction, rehabilitation, response. So all these things have to be focused on. All the activities in these phases of disaster management should focus on cooperation and capacity building, because community, you should understand, is a unit of a society. What is a community? It is a unit of a society which has been living in an area for long. It has its own shared norms, values, customs, traditions. So all these have to be kept in view. Cooperation is synergy of bringing together different organizations and agencies to achieve a goal. The goal is to mitigate the disasters and then mainstream disaster management with the development activities. And the other important aspect is we have to manage risk also. See, risk perception, risk assessment, and risk mitigation. It is very important. The risk perception, what is it? What is the risk? It has to be perceived by everybody, including community, local residents, government, NGOs. We should know what are the risks to which we are exposed to. So it helps in increasing the awareness and education, that we all know then about the risks. So risk perception is very, very important. And risk assessment, we need to assess the types of risks that one is exposed to and then work towards the mitigation. Mitigation is to reduce it. Mitigation of risk is to reduce it to the level. We may not completely avoid disasters, but we have to mitigate this thing. So all these things are required, and there should be total quality management. So everything we should focus on the every aspect of it. When we see, it has to be totally, the effort should be to bring about total quality management. So then only the sustainability of the rehabilitation and recovery and reconstruction projects can be, when there is community cohesion and there is community participation. So to what extent the community can be participated, it has to be brought in by the government, the Panchayati Raj institutions, sorry, in India we call Panchayati Raj institutions, the local government institutions. All these things have to be involved in making it happen. Like, we need to integrate the policy issues with community-based disaster management, because there is no point that we have a policy at the national level, but it has to translate down to the grassroots level. Grassroots level ultimately to the community level. So there is no point in having policies which doesn't go to the community level. So the linkage is, the community has to be linked to the total development process, disaster management process. Like, for example, if a community decides to build a check dam to protect itself against floods, see, the action taken at the community level matters a lot, because they know what are the risks they are exposed to, how the check dams have to be built. So this becomes very, very important. So we need to have more and more people oriented experiments. Like, I'm sure in your countries also, people are playing a very important role. Like, The government can give the technical assistance and supervision, provide the supervision, but ultimately it is the people, like, in a particular local area when they are staying, how it is to be built, it is the people who have to be involved, and they can only decide for themselves. Like there have been some instances where local houses have been built, but then people were not that happy with the houses in some of the places in India where the local needs were not taken into account at that point of time. But now the entire thing of disaster management is changing. The debates of disaster management, the entire complexion of managing disasters is changing, and we are trying to bring in more and more people centered approach to it, community based approach, and making it more and more participative and inclusive. So, especially when we talk of rehabilitation and reconstruction and recovery, we need to keep in mind that it is a long term process. It has to capacitate the people, it has to empower the people, and whatever policies are laid down at the top level, like, it has to be linked and integrated with the plans that are made at the local level. In any country, now this is the need of the hour. Anything you want to add? Yeah, Adamu?
Yes, yes, as you have said, we also have the same experience here in Adamawa State. We have
Yeah.
a local government called Song Local Government. Under
Hmm.
this local government, there is a village called Loco. This Loco is every year they used to have floods, a severe one.
Acha.
So government want to intervene, but government failed to incorporate the community in planning and implementation. So
Acha.
government went ahead to go and demarcate a certain area of land. They name it Sabo Loco. So they
Hmm.
build houses and they make allocations of land that people should relocate to that area. And
Yeah.
the people refuse to relocate to that area.
Hmm.
As I'm talking to you, it has been almost 8 to 10 years now. But these people refuse to evacuate to that new site. They are still staying in the previous area where they are, and the flood is still happening every day.
Acha. That's a good one. Yeah. Yes, Sani Salis. Yeah.
In addition to what Adamu said, so I think I didn't know because I'm not living there. So are they visiting the district heads? Are they respect the district heads? When you didn't respect the district heads, they will not achieve what their goals.
Hmm.
Even when they even building their houses in that area, and let them observe what the essence of
Hmm.
migrating from that old site to the new site. Maybe there is something benefit for them. So they have to look over it. If it is an what do you I don't forget what you said about the area, a pollution. Sorry, if it is pollution, let them create an embankment or
Hmm.
a proper solution that make that thing to not happen. So for them to survive, and they use another wisdom, so many ways that you can bring them outside that place so that they will benefit from the new settlement and the old settlement. But I'm not living there. That's my suggestion. Okay, let me add. So at times, this three head is very, very important. Even politics play a role. They are respect their history, their culture, their people living in that area, so that you can be able to achieve your goal. Thank you.
Yeah. Good. 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 Any other?
Yes,
That
ma.
place is like a business center for the rice and the onion. So they used to farm both during rainy and dry season in that area. So they are used to have a bonfire harvest of rice, onion, and all these petty farm products. So I think they are too skeptical that if they move to the new site, the government will not allow them to continue utilizing those lands to produce their farms, because you know when community are not involved in the planning, in the assessment and implementation, they will be too skeptical of what may come after. Or had it been they are part and parcel of the planning and there is clear principle laid out for this project together with them, and also they are part of it, I don't think that issue will arise. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Honestly, Adam. So I know that's why there is something beneficial to them. That's why they will not leave the place. And when they
Yeah.
leave, the government force another people to that area so that they would benefit more than what they benefit. So that is, and it may even create a conflict if care isn't taken because it's their own shelters and it's they are the people they are living in that area before. So that is, thank you.
Yes, that's true. Yeah. Now, any other, or we close the session? You have any other queries or anything? So now we come to the end of this, and this completes all the 7 courses. So I'm very happy interacting with you, and many of you have participated. It's quite interesting that I could also learn from you, because the course material that you have may be having examples from Indian context, but you can always apply it to your own situation whenever you write the assignments or whatever the term and examination pattern is. So it's always better that you apply it to your own situations. Yes. Yes, Tombe.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you very much, and I really appreciated your lecture and the way you have been conducting this lecture with us. I'm really very happy.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, I am also requesting only one thing from your side.
Yeah.
If my colleagues will agree with me, uh, I will request you if you can allocate more time when it comes to M&E. Let me say monitoring and evaluation, and in disaster management. It is one of the most important, units
Yeah.
when it comes to any intervention. It is monitoring and evaluation has so many things uh, in any project management. And I'm asking you if there could be time that you can give us. I had wanted you to at least give us also some knowledge on how best can we deal with the tools that are related to monitoring and evaluation. And this one will also help us when we are done with this course, we will have a first class knowledge when it
Okay,
comes
sure.
to any intervention. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. This will be kept in mind. And then once you are through with MED 004, so we can think about it. Okay. So what I can do is maybe I can also send you points and then send it to ma'am and she can send it to you. Okay. So a small,
Okay, we'll appreciate that.
yeah,
Okay, ma, we will appreciate that.
yeah, yeah. Huh? Okay. 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 I'll try to send points and then write up on this so that it helps you in it. Okay.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Okay. Okay. Okay then.
Yes, thank you so much, ma. We really
Okay.
appreciate. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. And
Yeah.
any doubt, anything, you can write email to me. Okay. My email is with you. Okay.
Yes, ma, it is with us. Thank you,
Okay.
ma.
Smart, it
Thank
is
you
with
so
us.
much.
I even
Yeah,
send
yeah.
you message, but yet there's no reply.
Okay. Okay.
I send you message, no reply yet.
Where you sent me message? Did you?
Yes, ma. Yeah,
Nay,
you
you sent message or regarding what?
regarding to project.
Yeah, no, that's what I told you. No, initially I said, I spoke to Dr. Kohli. I think you sent it to Dr. Kohli, no?
Okay, I should
The
send it
project.
to Dr. Kwali. I send it to you, but yet no.
No, but you didn't send a proposal to me. You just
No, not
sent that you
propose.
want.
Not
You
proposal. I just said you that I want you to be my project supervisor. But
you
yet I
make the
didn't receive
project. Yeah, you send the project proposal to me, to my email. You
Okay,
make it.
I
You
will
know
do
how
so.
to. Yeah.
Okay, ma.
Coming
I
week
will
you
do
send
so.
it to me. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, but
Okay,
Adamu,
but
please,
so
if you have her email, please let's
I
drop
am
hmm?
it clearly so we can.
I'm sending. I'm
Even me,
writing to the chat box. Okay.
yeah, even me, I wanted Ma to be my project supervisor. I will share my
Hmm?
to her email. Thank you.
Thank you, ma. Have
Okay.
a nice
I'm
day.
sending. Okay. Have a nice day. I have sent my email here. So anything you can write to me. Okay.
Yes, ma.
Meanwhile, I'll try to send a something write up a small points with on monitoring and evaluation. Okay. And ma'am can put it on LMS. Okay. I'll talk to her. Okay.
Yes, ma.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so
Bye.
much. It
Thank you.
was
We appreciate Ma.
my learning experience. I enjoyed